interesting experience yesterday. I say interesting because it was, in theory, a bad experience, but it was a learning experience, which almost all are, but also an instance where I got to see some of the progress and hopefully benefits I'm getting out of these videos and all the things I'm trying to do to think better and be better. So, quick context. It was about 6 o'clock yesterday evening, and I had some work calls that I was doing that were running over. So I got a bit behind, and I needed to order dinner. So I kind of had to do that quickly for my wife and my son, and I had somewhere I had to be at 7 o'clock. So I ordered some food for them. Was kind of finishing up the work calls, getting ready to go. A little bit of a hectic rush of a situation. The food that came was wrong. It wasn't what we ordered. They messed up the order. So my son wouldn't eat it. So I had to make him something else kind of on the fly. Now I was already late at this point for the thing I needed to be at 7 o'clock. The food wasn't right. So, I started to go into where I would historically always go, right? I started getting angry. I started getting frustrated. I started being short with my family. I felt like the stress and the anger and the frustration building up and thinking, I'm going to be late for this thing and he doesn't have dinner now. And I started catastrophizing and playing out how everything's falling apart. And this isn't the way it's supposed to happen. This isn't working right. So, trying to figure it out and work through it, I decided to get him some frozen pizza out of the freezer and heat that up. And there wasn't really enough time to heat it up fully, but I was like, I'll go with it. It'll be good enough. So, kind of went with that plan. As I was getting the pizza out of the toaster oven, it fell on the floor. So in that moment, my immediate visceral reaction kicked in and I started yelling and cursing to the point that my son ran into the other room and kind of just put his head down. And it was probably one of the louder and more aggressive outbursts I've had in some time for the reasons I stated, right? The circumstances aligned in such a way where I was already frustrated. I was frustrated at work that ran over. I was frustrated I was behind. I knew I was going to be late to this thing I needed to get to. I knew I needed to get them dinner and it just wasn't working out. And then to see that pizza fall on the floor and just splatter and sauce everywhere. Now I need to clean this up. Now I need to figure out something else for him to eat. Now I'm definitely going to be way late to this thing I need to be to. The math instantly, kindergarten level math just spit out, this is effing bullshit, and I just let it rip. And I was just literally yelling at the top of my lungs, cursing for about maybe 10 seconds. So that part's not so good. Where I saw some of the progress and where I feel good is in a way in which I've never been able to do before, particularly in that setting when it was that entrenched into it and that, deep into it at that point. I was able to stop myself. Literally, as I got the paper towels and I started cleaning up the pizza, my mind started to process. And it went from kindergarten to maybe 8th grade math. And I started, processing a little bit better. And I felt it progressing up, just that stepping back. And, I think there was a few things about it that allowed me to catch myself there and course correct. One, as I said, I stopped to think, right? I stopped to think and I started thinking about the catastrophizing that I was doing and hey, not that big of a deal. It'll take me about 30 seconds to clean up this pizza. Not a huge deal. There's something else I can give him quickly. I'll figure that out. He's not going to starve to death. So let's not overreact to what happened, right? Let's not allow ourselves to make pretend just because pizza fell and we're frustrated, it's the end of the world and we have the right to just totally lose our minds. As I did that, I also was able to kind of step back and observe the situation somewhat objectively and see how I was reacting, see how I was yelling, see how my son and wife were reacting to it, and recognizing this isn't what I want. This isn't the image I want them to see. This isn't the way I would want my son to act. Frankly, it's embarrassing that I am throwing a tantrum because this pizza fell and things aren't going the way I want them to go. It can't happen, right? That's not the way it should play out. Then the mental toughness kicks in, right? Because again, just for me, at that point, when I am so pot committed, if you will, to I'm angry and I'm frustrated and I've told myself it's okay to let loose and I can start screaming now. You've given yourself a green light and you've said, this is okay for you to do this. You are justified. You're not doing anything wrong. You deserve to be able to do this. But now I start doing the things I said. I start checking my math. I start saying, it's not that big of a deal. I'm embarrassing myself. But now I have to go back into my own mind and say, no, you were wrong. You should not have been doing that. That was embarrassing. That's not something my mind wants to admit. I've already done it. So now I have to admit that I fucked up, that I made a mistake and I didn't handle this right. I don't like admitting that. My mind doesn't like admitting that. But I'd like to think I've built up the mental toughness and the ability and the honesty with myself to say, no, that's what it is. You did fuck up, and this is embarrassing, and you shouldn't have done that. Now fix it, right? So that mental toughness kicks in. The last piece I would say is the fix it, right? That recognition of it. I think there's a very logical component to it in all of that, right? Everything that I'm saying. And you start to rewire, right? I guess I would say the way you run your calculations, that kindergarten versus 8th grade, you start to change the way that runs. And every situation you run into starts to get run through this new software, this new algorithm, if you will, that's much better, much more sophisticated, much more nuanced versus the old one. And you do it in everyday life, and you read about it, and you make videos about it, and you talk to people about it, and it becomes ingrained into the way your mind works to where you almost can't turn it off. So in that moment where I'm yelling and cursing and I'm frustrated, my mind starts to recognize like, hey, you've already stated to yourself and to others and made clear, like, that's not the way you run your math. You don't see pizza fall and just lose your mind, because that doesn't make any sense. It's not useful. It's not helpful for you to scream and yell. Nothing's helping the situation. It's not logical. And you start to wire yourself in such a way, or program yourself in such a way in which it can't work that way. And I'd like to think that's actually what got me to pause and go through all those steps I already mentioned, is that my mind, it hit a glitch. It was like, what is this? This isn't how it works. This isn't doing anything for you. There's no logic in this, seemingly. Stop it. Do it the right way. And I think all of that together allowed me to handle the situation. Not good, right? Obviously, I shit the bed on it to begin with, but to stop myself. And for me, it may not sound like it. It's probably still an embarrassing story to tell, but I'm okay with that because I know there's progress in it. And I know it's something I can build on, and I know it's something I can continue to get better at. And that's what it's really all about.